Okay, cool. We are good to go. So let's see how many people we have um, uh, live here. So we have 12. Wow, 12 people tuning in live. So that's super exciting. Uh, yeah, I've been looking forward to this all day. Did some work in the morning, went to the gym, got a nice workout in. So I'm feeling really energized. Kind of loaded up on a little bit of caffeine right now, which is just fun. But I'm really excited for this announcement. Like, you guys really blew me away with all of your applications, telling me, all the reasons why you need this, why you want to do this, why this will change your life. And, all of your stories of being vulnerable, of sharing like everything you've struggled with up to this point. Like, there were some really vulnerable stories in here. And, I appreciate you guys, just trusting me to share that information because I know it's not easy. So the winner of the 6-month coaching giveaway is a very, very lucky person. You guys didn't think I was just going to just name drop it right away. There's gotta be some type of build up for this because this is a huge opportunity. We haven't done a giveaway like anywhere close to this in a long time. And this opportunity can ultimately change this winner's life, whether it's a first place winner, maybe one of the second place winners. This could ultimately change your life. And you guys told me so many reasons why it will change your life, in your applications. And, if you've looked over our coaching information packet, you'll realize just how big this is and how seriously, we take our coaching here, how I take my coaching here. Like, this isn't just some nutrition and fitness program. This is for us to really help you change your life, to get to a better spot, to, achieve the goal you want to achieve and ultimately build a better life and help you, support you along the way in more areas than just hey, hit this calorie goal and, do your workout. This means the world to me, and giving away something like this and, the first place prizes, all the second place prizes means so much. And if you've watched any of these client interviews we've done here in the Facebook group, you'll know just how seriously, I take this and how important giving something like this away is to me. So you're probably watching this and thinking a bunch of things, right? What if I win the first place prize and I win this free 6 months of coaching? You're probably feeling a little bit of excitement, you want to win it, but I think some of you might also be feeling a little bit of nervousness too. What if I do win this opportunity? What if I do get this chance to, achieve my goal of, losing this much weight, over these next 6 months for free? And probably some of you feel this, fear regarding it, because what if I win this opportunity and I don't take advantage of it? What if I win this opportunity and I don't follow through? Will that be a sign that I'm always going to, fail at this? So there's probably some thoughts there. It's probably some thoughts of, what if I don't win this first place prize? What do I do then, right? What if I, don't win the first place prize, but I win one of the second place prizes? Am I going to take advantage of that? Or am I going to not do that because I'm maybe afraid of failure or afraid of this or afraid of that or afraid of the commitment? What if I don't win even one of the second place prizes and I don't win at all? Am I going to still try to, as long as there's spots left, inquire with coaching because this is that important to me? You're probably faced with a lot of these scenarios in your head right now thinking, what's going to happen? What if this, what if that, what if that? And that's the interesting thing about, these giveaways is I really find out kind of who really meant what they said in their application too. When so many people talked about this is going to change my life. But if something was really going to change your life for the better, would you only do it if it was free? If it really was going to change your life and you really believe that, probably not, right? So it's kind of interesting to, see how that plays out. But even regardless of that, you're having these thoughts of, all these what if scenarios. And I wanted to share, and these are going to be some personal things that don't know if I've ever shared publicly ever. So because I know one story I did kind of share once, but two of them I didn't, and they're very vulnerable stories, and I wanted to share them because you guys were so vulnerable with me with sharing your stories, sharing your whys, sharing your reasons why, you need this. So I figured I would pay it forward and be vulnerable back. And so this concept of what if, right? We've all been faced with so many what if scenarios in life. And I've had multiple what if scenarios, but three really, really big ones that I believe really have changed the direction of my life in some way. What if scenario number one, it was April of 2020. So fun year, 2020, right when COVID really started popping off and things were closing down, and, everyone was getting all stressed, anxious. They didn't know what was going to happen. But also during this time, I was in the middle of my dietetic internship. And I was about 4 months into my internship. And if you don't know what a dietetic internship is, it's an internship that you are required to do to then be eligible to take the exam to become a dietitian. And then if you pass the exam, you become a dietitian. So what you have to do is you have to get a master's degree at least in nutrition now, and then apply for an internship, get accepted, it's very competitive to get one. And you have to get accepted into an internship, and then you have to complete the internship, pass your evaluations, all of that, and then you're able to take the exam and then finally become a dietitian. So I was in the middle of my internship. I was about 4 months in. I started January of 2020, and this time period of the story was April of 2020. And I was just finishing up my first rotation of my internship. So there are different rotations you have to do. There's a clinical one where you're working in the hospital. There's a food service one where you're working in like the cafeteria at a hospital potentially. And then there's, depending on the program, there could be like an elective one where you can kind of choose whatever area you want to do. And I was just finishing up my first rotation of my internship, which was my clinical rotation. So I was in the hospital seeing patients who were coming in because they had CHF or heart failure, or they had super high levels of cholesterol, or just had a heart attack, or their blood sugar was super high, so they were coming into the hospital. Worked with some patients who were in the rehab facility too, but I saw patients with all those conditions, even with kidney issues, and I was doing that Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, basically a full-time job, but not getting paid for it. That's the downside of the dietetic internships. You don't get paid for it, but it's basically a full-time job without pay. But I was 4 months into it, just finishing up my clinical rotation, and at the end of each rotation, they sit you down, go over your evaluation, tell you how you did at the rotation, tell you, what you did really well, what you could have done better, give you some areas of improvement, and you have to meet minimum standards to then get a check off your list of, hey, I finished my clinical rotation, right? So this was April of 2020, towards the end of April, and we actually the hospital had just said, hey, students, you're not allowed to come in here anymore because COVID was really getting rampant in there. So I was doing the past 2 weeks of my assignments and everything online because of that. And my preceptor, who was in charge of me at the hospital, kind of overseeing what I was doing, she emailed me and asked me to come in the next day in her office because she wanted to talk with me. And I thought this was kind of weird because students weren't supposed to be going in there. And I thought, this is strange. It's probably something serious if she's asking me to actually physically come in and didn't want to just email me about it. So all day I was thinking okay, what is this, right? Is COVID so bad that I'm not going to be able to go in there and finish my other rotation or this or that? So I showed up, walked down this long hallway which felt like eternity, walking down to get to her office, and walked in. She asked me to close the door behind me, and she had this, I could barely see her facial expression because she had a mask on, but I could tell that she had a very serious demeanor to her. And, I sat down, and she basically told me, she was doing my evaluation, talking with the other dietitians I was working with in the hospital, And the reviews were not great of what I got. And she pretty much told me, that my enthusiasm wasn't there for what I was doing. Assignments weren't getting turned on necessarily on time. I was showing up like right in the nick of time when my rotation was supposed to start. And the dietitians just didn't think my performance was up to par. And she went over my evaluation, and my score for my evaluation was very poor. And basically, it wasn't enough to pass that rotation. And because of my poor performance, she was going to contact my program director and let him know, what the situation was. And then they were going to make a decision from there of what to do next. If they were going to potentially give me another chance because I was supposed to do my next rotation there, or just pretty much probably kick me out of the program. And like I mentioned, getting a dietetic internship is such a competitive process, and getting another one once you've been kicked out is nearly impossible. So I had like this just huge pitting, feeling in my stomach, because, I was thinking about everything I worked for up to this point, and, finishing grad school, going through grad school, doing my undergrad, applying to grad school, all the hours I put in studying, and thinking about all the work that I put in to actually get this internship, and then all the hours I put into this clinical spot. And I was going to get it potentially taken away from me, which, for good reason, because it was my own fault. And, there was not the secret, but there was something going on around this time that I wasn't open with that was really affecting me. It was affecting my performance. It was affecting how I was showing up as a person, not only in my, career wise, like in my internship, but it was affecting how I was showing up even like with my wife and my personal relationships. And that situation was coming up on the year anniversary of my mom dying. And my mom had passed away April of 2019, and it was very sudden. No one was expecting it. She ended up in the hospital and was in the hospital for, I think it was less than 48 hours total, and she was gone. And I was, when she passed, it was a Friday morning. I got a call at, I think it was like 7 a.m. of, hey, like she's going to go into emergency surgery. You have to head home. And I was 3.5 hours away in college. So I hurried up and got my car, didn't pack anything up, started driving. 20 minutes into my drive, I got a call that said that my mom's heart has stopped and they tried to bring her back multiple times and they couldn't. So I had over a 3-hour drive left of just all these thoughts of, I should have went home sooner. I should have done this. I should have done that. And I struggled with that so much over that next year, of so much depression over it, so much anxiety. It was, causing a rift between, me and my wife even, because I just was struggling so much that so many basic things that I needed to get done, it was so hard to get done. And, finally with this internship process starting January of 2020, I was able to finally get out of the house and like get a little active instead of just sitting at home all the time. And it helped, but I still wasn't showing up the way I wanted to because, and I don't want to blame this depression and anxiety and me mourning over the death of my mom over that next year, over my poor performance, because I should have showed up better. But I think that was a big contributor. And when my preceptor dropped this news on me and asked me, like, what's going on? Like, why is your performance like this? This is not what we would expect from you. This is not what we would expect from an intern who's excited to, be in this program. And I didn't know what to say. I literally was speechless. And I sat there and I just remember like staring down at the desk in front of me. And she was like sitting over to my left, kind of turned towards me, angled a little bit. And I just had no idea what to say. And I was wearing this mask, so my facial expression was a little bit covered. And the tears just started coming out. And like, I don't cry that often, especially in front of people, especially like face to face. So that was just like something I just could not control. And like these tears started coming out and it felt like eternity until I could finally get words out and say what was going on. It was probably only maybe 20 seconds before I started talking, but it felt like it was like 2 minutes of me just staring blankly, speechless, not knowing what to say, because this was so different than anything I experienced before, because I had always been a really good student in high school, in college. So this like hit me so hard, because I've never been told something like this. And I never been like threatened ever to be like kicked out of a program or anything like this. And I thought like, okay, what if I get kicked out? Like, I'm not going to get an internship. I'm not going to become a dietitian from here. Sure, like I still had a degree in nutrition, but I would have felt like a fraud doing what I do without going the full mile of becoming a dietitian. And I thought like, I'm letting myself down, letting my mom who had passed down, letting my dad who was still around down, letting my wife down, letting down everyone. That's how I felt. And, I sat there and I told her the truth. I said, I have not been showing up the way I was supposed to. And I was honest, and I was like, I'm not trying to blame this, but I think it had a lot to do with this being the 1-year anniversary of my mom's death, and it just really affecting me, and I think I need to get help. So I talked with, she told me, okay, she's going to email the program director and talk with him and see what they were going to do, if they were going to kick me out or if they were going to give me another chance. So I went home, talked with my wife. We played out different scenarios of what's going to happen, and I finally got an email saying that they were giving me another chance. I was supposed to do my food service rotation with them just a couple months after, and they are going to give me one last chance. And if I didn't get exceptional reviews from them this second time, then I was going to get kicked out of the program. And like I said, I wouldn't have gotten into another program, I guarantee it. So I talked with my wife of how to get myself out of this hole, this mental hole that I was in. And we finally decided, I need to go get professional help. I need to see somebody else, because I tried to get myself out of this hole for the past 12 months and was unsuccessful. Like, this was a year after my mom had passed, and I dealt with this depression, anxiety for so long. And I'd have, a couple of weeks where I felt really good, and then a couple of weeks where I was completely down again. A couple of weeks where I felt really good, a couple of weeks down, maybe a couple of days where I felt really good. And it was just so up and down, and I tried so hard, reading different books, doing different types of things. And it obviously was not helping after a year. So finally, I decided to get professional help, saw a counselor, saw a psychiatrist, and did my second rotation with them. And a few months later, after that next rotation, the evaluations came back, and they were incredible. They said I was like a totally different person. I completely changed, and I completely turned it around, fixed all the issues that I had in clinical wise, and I was able to stay in the program and complete it. And obviously now, I passed my exam eventually and became a dietitian. But I play this scenario in my head so many times. Like, what if I wouldn't have reached out for help? What if I wouldn't have went to a professional to help me with this when I had struggled with it for months and months and months beforehand with no results, like not getting any better? I don't know where I would be. Like, I probably wouldn't be in this Facebook group giving this big giveaway away. Might not be a coach. Who knows? Like, what would have happened with my relationship? Like, what would have happened with anything else? Like, if I would have gotten kicked out of that program and I wouldn't be able to do what I loved. And, I'll just be completely honest and vulnerable here. I didn't ever have thoughts of suicide, but I did have thoughts of, I'm letting everyone around me down, myself down, my dad down, my mom who had passed down, my wife down, everyone around me, that I had thought maybe if something were to accidentally happen to me, like maybe people would be better off. Like I said, I never planned anything, never actually thought about doing something to myself, but I thought maybe if there was some kind of accident that did happen, maybe it would be for the better. So I think back to that scenario and like, what if I wouldn't have done that? And I'm glad that I did make that decision. And now I don't have to know what that what if is. Now, what if scenario number 2? There was another scenario, and this was January of 2021. and I had just finished my dietetic internship a few months back. I had just passed my RD exam a couple weeks before. It was December 28th, one of the best days of my life, December 28th, 2020. Passed that RD exam. I can't explain the feeling of seeing that pop up on the screen. You get your result immediately after you take the exam and seeing that I passed. Because I'd worked so hard for it. I'd gone through all of that, and I finally did it, and I didn't, let my mom down, and finally finished. And now I was in this scenario where I was feeling so good. I had passed my exam, and I was a dietitian finally had my dream. But where do I go from here? Like, I had no job lined up, and most people, they end up applying for some kind of dietetic job, whether it be like a 9-to-5 normal clinical setting job, or maybe they find something in food service or whatever. But that's not what I wanted to do. Like, I learned that what I wanted to do with, being a dietitian was so much more than, in my opinion, what I saw in the hospital in the clinical setting. Like, going into a patient's room, talking with them for maybe 10 minutes at a time, seeing things go through one ear and out the other, and then never being able to connect with that person ever again, unless they ended up being in the hospital again and I happened to see them. Or even like the nutrition counseling side of things, sitting down with somebody saying, hey, this is how many calories you should eat. Here's a general meal template. See you in a couple months. Like, that is not what people need, in my opinion, to actually see results. And I knew there was so much more I could give to people, to give to clients, with communication, the way we communicate with clients in here, phone calls, Zoom calls, very specific goals, accountability, and just on a deeper level. And I knew that was what I wanted to do, but like, I had three clients at the time, and which was obviously not enough to support myself, to potentially support my wife, to support a future family we wanted to build. So I was like, what do we do from here? Like, I talked with my wife multiple times of, okay, what do I do? Do I apply for, a general 9-to-5 job? Do I maybe try to get like a part-time clinical job and try to build my business on the side, or a full-time clinical job and try to build my business, on the evenings or weekends, or this or that? Or do I just like go all in on myself, on my business, and take a huge risk and see if I can figure it out over the next couple months? So we talked about this multiple times even before I finished school, and now it was like the time to make the decision. January 2021, finished everything, no job. What do I do? And I ended up but I found this coaching program that helped nutrition coaches build their online businesses. And these were people who had followed for a long time. So I knew it wasn't BS. There's a lot of like scammers out there, especially now that the online coaching space is so big. But these people had built up trust with me, and I saw what they accomplished with their own businesses and being able to impact more people too, right? Like, building my business isn't just, hey, let me make a living. It's being able to help people change their lives and lose weight too, because I could just make a living being a clinical dietitian. Like, I could just go work in the hospital, but I didn't feel like that was really impacting people the way they needed it. So I looked into this program, and I was like, let me look into this program and see if it's something I want to do, because if this works and I can build up my clientele, be able to impact more people and build a business, like, I'll be so much happier. So I had a call with, the owners of the business, who did the business coaching, and they dropped, went through the program, was like, yeah, this sounds great. Like, this is what I need this type of guidance, this and that. And they dropped the price or the investment of the program. And this program was $10,000. Actually, it was $10,000, $10,800 exactly. And it was a 16-week program, so 4 months long. And I was like, wow, I do not have $10,000 or $11,000. I thought, I can't afford this. Like, I don't have this money coming in. How in the world would I do this? And like, I had just been in school for the past total 8 years between undergrad and grad school and my internship, of not like, I didn't make any money in my internship. Like I said, it was an unpaid internship for almost a year straight. And then I spent a couple months studying for my exam. So I had no money to my name really at this point. So I didn't know what to do. I was like, I really need this, but I don't have the money. And, I talked with them and they were like, hey, like you can do this in 4 payments of $2,700 instead of just paying in full, which was $2,700 a month, and still did not have the money for this. So, I talked with my wife and I was like, I don't know how, we can make this work. Probably can't do it. And luckily enough, I had been having a conversation with the owners of the gym that I actually currently work out at. And one of the owners, he asked me, probably a few weeks before this, what I wanted to do, because he had seen all the stuff I was posting on social media. He saw like the few client transformations I was posting from the few clients I was working with at the time. He asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him, like, this is what I want to do, online nutrition coach. And he had some clients, because he was a personal trainer there as well, who needed help with their nutrition. Like, he was helping them with the fitness side of things, but he didn't know enough or have enough time to help them nutritionally, how they needed help. So he was like, once you pass your exam, become a dietitian, we could talk about, maybe me referring some of them to you. And, I really appreciate that, because there's a lot of trainers out there who think that they know everything and think, hey, this person needs help nutrition wise. I'm going to charge them for nutrition when I don't even know what I'm doing really, but just because it's a money grab for them. So I really appreciate this guy for realizing his expertise is in training. He doesn't, have the systems or the knowledge necessarily to work with these people the way they need help. Let me refer them out to, an expert. So I really appreciate that. But because he did that, I ended up signing on maybe like a handful of clients that month, that first month, January 2021. And it gave me just enough to make that first payment in that business coaching program of $2,700 for that first month. And like I said, it would be 3 more payments of that $2,700. And had enough for the first month, but I did not have any other money scheduled to come in or anything else for those other 3 months. So if I commit to this, make that first payment, and I don't follow through, or I don't put in the work, or this doesn't work or whatever, I'm going to be screwed with having these other payments rack up and potentially, like, I don't know, get sent to collections or whatever was going to happen, So I talked with my wife, and, we debated on what to do. And luckily, she believed in me as much as I believed in myself to make this happen. And I had my back against the wall where I knew that this was the route I needed to go. I wanted to go, because this is where, like, people needed my help. They need my help in the clinical setting, seeing them for 10 minutes. They needed my help, every day of the week if they needed it. They needed my help week to week, making adjustments the way I help clients now. And so we talked, and I ended up pulling the trigger on the program, and I ended up being successful with it, being able to sign on more clients, being able to help more people, and building this from where it was in January 2021 to where it is now. And I'm forever grateful for that owner of that gym who referred those clients to me, that gave me enough to start. I'm forever grateful for my wife for believing in me. I'm grateful for myself too, for believing in myself as well, to follow through. And now I'm where I am now. And that's another what if scenario. Like, what if I would have decided to just, that investment was too scary, or, what, that's too much money for me, or I can't afford it, right? Instead of getting resourceful and finding a way to afford it. Where would I be now? Like, I might not even be here now. I might not be in this Facebook group. I might be working a clinical job that I hate, maybe making some kind of consistent salary, but maybe not. People get laid off all the time, and maybe I would have done that and gotten that job taken away from me there anyway. So it's another what if scenario where I think, like, what if I wouldn't have done this? Where would I be now? I'm probably in a much worse spot, and probably doing something that I didn't love to do, and probably not making the type of impact that I know I can truly make. So those are my first 2 what if scenarios. And those 2 what if scenarios are, positive experiences, right? Like, I was faced with this crossroad. What am I going to do? And I took a chance on myself, took a leap, made this commitment, and I made it to the better side, right? Like I made it out, and overall so grateful, and I don't have to think back and like actually feel regret for not taking that what if chance. But here's the last what if scenario for you that really, sticks with me. And it stuck with me for a long time. And this was September of 2021. And this was, like I mentioned before, my mom had passed April of 2019. So this was a little over 2 years after my mom had passed. And my mom dying obviously significantly impacted myself, significantly impacted my two sisters, and it significantly impacted, obviously, everyone in our family, but it really impacted my dad. And my dad, both my parents struggled with a lot of health issues. I've, mentioned this multiple times. Heart issues, diabetes. My dad had his first heart attack before I was born. He had multiple heart surgeries. He had diabetes, which he didn't control well. He had kidney issues, all of that. And he also was quite a bit older than my mom. And I don't think he ever realized or thought that he could potentially have to live without her at any point because of all the issues he had and because he was, much older. And now those past 2 years, after she had passed, he was dealing with that reality of living life without her, and it really took a toll on him. Especially that last year that he was around. He had a lot of guilt because he thought he could have done things differently with my mom's care. He thought he could have been more assertive to the doctors of, hey, this is wrong or this or that, whatever. And he struggled so much mentally, which made his physical issues even worse. And that last year, he dealt with a lot of issues. He had a fall. He had this. He had, exacerbations of other issues he had with, CHF, heart failure. And he also ended up going into kidney failure and really having a hard time with his kidneys, where then he was required to be on dialysis. And if you aren't familiar with dialysis, it's basically where your kidneys are not functioning properly anymore enough to filter out your blood of all the waste products that build up in your blood. So he had to go to the dialysis center 3 times a week, get his blood basically filtered out through a tube back inside. And that dialysis process takes a lot out of you. It's very exhausting, causes a lot of nausea, really reduces your appetite. And also you lose a little bit of protein during that process. So like muscle mass is something that a lot of people lose significantly when they go through dialysis. So along with dialysis and all those issues, he also was dealing with a lot of swallowing issues where he couldn't chew his food properly, he couldn't swallow it, was coughing up every time he tried to eat, was throwing up as well. So that, along with having a poor appetite because of the dialysis, along with just mentally just not being in a good spot, still mourning the loss of, his wife, my mom, his health really deteriorated. And he got to this point where basically he was either going to pretty much die of starvation, basically, or have surgery to get a feeding tube put in. And it wasn't just some like easy surgery, hey, put the feeding tube in, you're good to go. Because of all of his issues, because he was so weak, like he couldn't even stand for half a second by himself. Like he couldn't even stand up at all because his legs were just so weak because of the muscle he had lost. And he had so many other health issues, was on blood thinners because of the heart issues he was having, that this surgery, like what maybe, could have been a little bit lighter of a surgery for somebody younger and healthier, this was a big deal for him to get a feeding tube in. And, the doctor had multiple conversations with us that like, definitely can't promise that he will make it out of this surgery. So he was kind of faced with this decision of, do I have the surgery, risk dying during the surgery, or not have the surgery and pretty much starve to death? And, he went back and forth on this a lot, talked with all of us a lot, and decided to finally, schedule the surgery for that Wednesday, which I believe would have been September 8th of 2021. And this was September 6th of 2021, where I lived at this point, I lived in Akron, Ohio. So I lived an hour and a half away. And I wanted to go see him because obviously he's having this surgery Wednesday. And, there's a chance, possibly even a high chance, that he's not going to make it out of this. So I was like, I'm going to visit him Tuesday, the whole entire day, take the whole day off of work, even though I had, a lot of work to get done. I was going to take the whole entire day off of work. I was going to go see him, get to the hospital first thing Tuesday morning, spend the whole entire day in the hospital with him. I know he was super weak, tired and everything, probably couldn't talk much, but I was just going to sit in there with him the whole day on Tuesday. And I decided to go there Monday evening, go to Sandusky, go to, where he was, because I wanted to get there as soon as possible Tuesday. Like if I would have left Tuesday morning, I might have missed out on some time, but I wanted to already be in Sandusky. That way, first thing Tuesday morning, I could have went to the hospital and spent the day with him. And I made this decision that I wasn't going to tell him because I wanted to surprise him Tuesday morning, walking into the hospital, walking into his room, because he had already been in the hospital at that point, and surprise him, with spending the day with him. So I got there Monday in Sandusky, was hanging out at the house, and I wanted to go see him so bad Monday evening, but visiting hours were over with at that point. So was just hanging out, and then my sister and I got a call from my other sister who was working at the hospital, and she said, you guys need to get there right away because he's not doing well. So hurry up and got in the car, started driving to the hospital, and got inside, went to the front desk, said, hey, we need to find this person's room because we didn't even know where the room was. They escorted us up there, and I remember walking down the hallway and seeing my older sister sitting outside of the room with her hands in her face, and I was like, we were too late. And I walked into that hospital, that rep room, or I walked up to my sister first, and she just said, he's gone. And I walked in to that room, and I can't even explain the emotion that I felt. My first instinct would have been like you would think, I probably started crying, but I was just so angry at myself for not coming a day sooner, for not telling him that I was coming. I wanted to surprise him, so I didn't tell him, but I feel like I should have told him, and maybe he would have, I don't know, maybe he would have hung on a little bit sooner. But, there's different, ideas people have regarding this. People think maybe he did pass when he did because he didn't want, me to see it because it would have been hard on me or something. But I was too late, literally 2 minutes late. When I texted my older sister that, hey, we're at the hospital, she said he had passed right when I sent that text. And I also have these other scenarios too. There was a stoplight that we stopped at, and I sat there and thought, maybe I should drive through the stoplight, drive through a red light. There were no cars, and I probably should have done it, but I didn't. I sat there, and maybe I could have gotten there in time. And just all these scenarios, right? If I would have drove faster, if I would have sped, if I would have, went through a red light, if I would have done this or that, if I would have let him know maybe I was coming, maybe he would have, stuck around for that next day. But I never got a chance to say, actually say bye to him. So that's my other what if scenario. What if I would have done all those things? And I can't go back and change that. And I've definitely accepted what has happened, and have learned to just be so grateful for all the time I did have with my dad. Jeez. All right. But I do still have those thoughts, right? Those, what if scenarios. And this is where a what if scenario could be a negative one. What if I would have done this? What if I would have done that? How would this outcome have maybe changed for the better, right? And now I know in the future, if something like this were to happen, I'm not going to let these what if scenarios happen at all. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to be there for the people I love, especially in a scenario like this. And a lot of you could see this negative what if scenario play out where, like, sure, maybe you don't win the free first place 6 month of coaching prize, but you might still have an opportunity to take advantage of the second place prize, or you might still have an opportunity to do coaching anyway. Like, what are you going to have this what if scenario that's possibly negative of being too afraid to commit, being too afraid to, take that chance, being too afraid to invest in yourself and say no and be like, you know what, I'm just going to try to do it on my own for a little bit longer, and then continue to struggle, continue to fail, continue to not see results. And then, 6 months go by, a year goes by, 2 years go by, and you're in the same position that you are now. And, have this what if scenario. Like, what if I would have actually pulled the trigger and took that leap and did this? What if I would have actually believed in myself? And what if I would have done this so I didn't have any regret going forward? So just wanted to share those 3 what if scenarios because I think they highlight really important things. Like, what can happen if you really do take that leap and, get professional help to make a change, or take that leap and invest yourself to make a change? And what if you don't? What if you decide to do something else and you decide to not take a chance on yourself? What kind of potential negative could come about? Like, so many of your applications, like, there's such a consistent theme of, I'm not able to play with my kids. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to play with my grandkids. I'm afraid I'm maybe not even going to be around for my grandkids. I, don't feel confident in shorts. I don't feel confident. I don't feel confident I don't feel confident experiencing certain things, because I don't feel confident in my body, and I don't want people to see me. Like for example, like a wedding, like somebody mentioned a wedding in their application that, they have a wedding coming up, and every year when they go to weddings, they don't go out and dance on the dance floor because they feel self-conscious of the way they look and they don't want people to see them. Like, do you want to keep missing out on experiences like that because, you were too afraid to take this leap, 6 months prior or a year prior, whenever? And do you want to continue like feeling unhappy when you look in the mirror? Do you want to continue feeling, like this version of yourself that you feel like isn't real, right? You feel like you deserve more. And, some of you probably will decide to, fall back on those fears and not take this leap. But there are a handful of you that I know will actually do that. And you guys who actually do move forward will not have to live with that what if scenario in your head of what if I actually did this. So I hope these stories connect with you all, and I hope these stories give you some context as to what you're kind of faced with and what the consequences of either or actions could be. Like, it could be, a negative consequence of not ever getting to your goal, your dream goal that you want, or it could be a really good outcome of actually getting there and learning how to do this for life. And then also not only benefiting yourself, bettering yourself, but also being able to, spread that with everyone around you, and become the best version of you. And then others become the best version of themselves because of you. So thank you for listening to, my rambles, my experiences, my journey. I appreciate all of you so much, especially for, like I, said, before, and what I've said in, messages to you guys. I really appreciate all of you putting your trust in me to guide you there. So I think without further ado, let's go ahead and announce the first place winner of the coaching giveaway. So this was extremely hard to pick. There were so many applications that really touched me, really touched my heart. And so many people who I know need this opportunity, to work with me or to work with us and move forward. And it was so hard. Like, if I would have been able to pick multiple people for the first place prize, I would have. But yeah, let's just get into it. Without further ado, the winner of the first place 6 month coaching giveaway is Mandy Baston. So I'm pretty positive I said your last name right. But yeah, you're the first place winner. So I will be messaging, obviously, you shortly to get you all set up, get you onboarded, get everything going for you to get started. Really excited to start working with you. And then also, I will be reaching out to a handful of people who I really want to give a second place prize to with a really incredible opportunity. So if you did apply, and obviously if you didn't win first place, definitely be on the lookout for a potential text from me. And also just remember, everything that I talked about in this live, like even though you didn't win first place, you still have an opportunity to change your life. And if you win second place, you still have a really good opportunity to do it. And even if you don't win second place, you still have an opportunity to, potentially join our community and, be a part of it. As long as there's spots available, like you can join us and you can still see, all the results that you want. So I appreciate you all, like I said, again, for applying. Be on the lookout. Have your phones ready for a potential text from me. And appreciate you all being so vulnerable with me and having a space for me to be vulnerable with you guys, because this is what coaching is all about. This is what all of this is all about. This isn't just, like I said before, a generic nutrition and fitness program where, you just get these certain goals. Like, this is much more than this. This is changing your life. This is going through the personal struggles you're going through and becoming the person that, you always thought that you could be. So, I appreciate you all. And I think I'll end this now. I think I've done enough talking. I would love, for all of you watching live, or watching the replay, to comment below, like, one big takeaway from this announcement was. One big takeaway from what you got out of these stories, or, my situation, or just even this process in general of applying for this, and you talking about your own struggles, in the application. Like, leave one takeaway. Would love to, get a big thread of comments of just what this really means to you, or what, really stuck out. So that's about it. Like I said, be on the lookout for a text from me, and I appreciate you all, and I will see you guys and talk to you guys soon.